What's up, dudes and dudettes? Dan Rowe here. I want to show you today just a little bit about my editing workflow. I'm not a talented retoucher. I'm not. Just simply not the case. What I'm good at is quickly going through images, making them better, retouching skin a little bit in a way, in a fashion that's acceptable for senior portraits. I'm not going to be doing any high-end magazine retouching anytime soon, I can tell you that. If you're a high-end magazine retoucher, there are elements of this that may work out great for you, but realistically, you're working on one image for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it takes. I'm not doing that. I'm getting an image up for a couple minutes. It's gone. I'm not worrying about it again until I either A, upload it on Facebook to get new business, or B, print it out for the client because they purchased it. So, what we've got here is Aubrey. Aubrey is a senior that we shot actually quite a few images of. I was having fun. Girl was having fun. The session right after her canceled, so we just kept shooting. Anyway, here's what I normally do. I normally filter down the images, and then I'll filter them even more. What you're looking at right now are the ones I've tagged number 2s. Those 2s are the ones that I'm planning on showing on Facebook. They're the ones that when she sees her Pro Select album will be fully edited and retouched. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to export those out into a folder that I keep on my desktop. Working-edit. That folder is the same folder for every single session. It's my working folder. I'll only have one session typically in there at a time. So I'll export those out as PSD files. All right. I'm not going to hit export. I'm going to hit cancel because I've already got those out there. But they're there. They're ready to go. Now I'm going to go straight to Photoshop. Photoshop is where the single biggest, my favorite plugin, my favorite tool that I use sits. It's called Autoloader. Autoloader is, you can find it on photoshoptools.ca, but Autoloader is from a guy named Mike Dixon. Mike is a guy that I met at a workshop a few years back, but this single tool sped up so much what I was doing that it was big. Let's put it that way. I don't know how to accurately describe it, but it was a big deal, still is a big deal to the way I work today. The beauty of Autoloader and what it does, it will take a folder of images. It will open an image into Photoshop, allow you to work on it, then via a keystroke, it will actually close that image, save that image, close that image, open the next image in that folder. So you can work all the way through that without having to open a bunch of images at one time, which everybody knows will slow Photoshop down. You don't have to go back and forth between Lightroom and Photoshop. It's just, you stay there, you finish one, you go to the next one. So you can quickly retouch. Another thing I'll use quite often is the Totally Rad Totally Rad Lab palette, I guess is what it's called. But it's Totally Rad Actions. It's just in a plug-in form so you can see previews. It's really cool, and you'll see it as we go working. So let's get right into Autoloader. So the first thing I have to do, actually the only thing I have to do every time with Autoloader is just set it. It retains that info of the folder I was working on, but I have to tell it every time I want it to save it in that location. Mike, if you're listening, I'd love that to retain that setting, and I wouldn't have to ever do this. Anyway, when I hit save and close, it basically creates a couple folders inside that image, or a couple files inside the folder of images that tells Autoloader what all's there, and database files, I guess. So now I have a keyboard shortcut. Actually, I have a Wacom tablet, and I have that tied to run Autoloader. I press it, boom, it opens the image. So right away I can start retouching. I mentioned how pretty Aubrey was in this session here. This girl has basically a flawless face, so I'm kind of cheating here because she is much better shape than what the typical senior is when they come in. I'm just trying to find flaws here, and okay, we found a couple. I use the patch tool to retouch acne quite often. That's not a common thing. Most people use clone tool or healing. I like the patch tool. I'm a big fan. So I'm going to run portraiture on it. I'm going to run it twice, usually on every image. I'll run it first on the highlights. It'll create a layer with with that setting. Then I'm going to run it again on the shadows. Sometimes on the midtones, if it's really rough skin, I'll do that. But this gives me 2 layers. I'll typically flatten those layers and then adjust opacity down until I'm happy. Kind of see before and after. Again, it's just smoothing her. I mean, she's got beautiful, beautiful skin. Now, we do have some blown highlights here in her skin. What I'm about to do, I'm going to get rid of that just in how I knew I wanted this image to look in the end. So I'm going to go open now the Rad Lab palette. And I'm going to put some more flare on this thing. Let's see. Kind of like that. I like kind of that warm flare on it. So I'm going to hit finish. You see how the Rad Lab was showing me previews of what everything looked like as I moused over it? To me, that's really, really cool. And essential to me because I'm a spaz. I don't really know exactly what I'm looking for until I see it. So it's great for me. So I'll flatten that all out. You know what? Actually, I didn't even have to. If I just hit the... go back so it's not flattened. I'm saving everything as a JPEG, so it's going to flatten it when I hit my Autoloader next key. Boom. Goes to the next image. I'm going to go through these real quick because I just retouched those. I'm going to close those out. If you're running Autoloader and you do that, it just won't save a JPEG file. All I'm going to move into Lightroom later is the JPEG files. So I close that one, I hit Autoloader, it automatically goes to the next one. So let's look at this one here. I'm going to use my clone tool. Do this quite often to kind of clean up dark eyes. Set it on light mode. I'm just going to kind of get rid of those shadows there. Just a little bit, kind of soften it up. Maybe under her nose here too. I'm using my fluorescent ring light. I'm not liking that actually. Let's use the patch tool. And I have cheap bulbs in it, so it gets some weird sort of mixed light stuff going on. So get some kind of blotchy skin going on there sometimes. Run portraiture again. Highlights and shadows. First the highlights usually. And I'll go back and do the shadows. Okay, I got those two layers. Again, I'm going to merge them. Adjust the opacity down a little bit. Now I'm going to open Rad Lab, see what we can do with the colors. Sometimes I'll do a hue saturation layer, you know, kind of play around with stuff with masks and whatnot. Typically, though, this is about all I'll do. Let's finish there. Now, I don't like what this one did with her hair. Turned it kind of yellow, so I'm going to mask that off. Sorry about that. I had to move my windows around a little bit, or move my workspace around a little bit to get it to fit inside the recording utility I'm using, so nothing's where it normally is. So boom, I like that. Cool. Save that. This image I think will look really, really cool in black and white. So let's run portraiture, and I'm just going to run it once on the shadows. I don't think I even need to run it on the highlights. And it saved the shadow information from the last image. I didn't have to use the eyedropper tool on this. And since the images are almost identical in tonality, you know, we can do that. So I'm going to flatten that. I'm going to open Totally Rad and go down to my black and white settings that are in there. Oh, I love this. Run what it's calling magical black and white. And we're, you know, I like that, just the way it is. It's pretty. We're done with that image. So we can go right on through the images here. I like this one. Cool. All right. So right off the bat, I think what we're going to do, we'll run portraiture. And I'm going to clean up that strap line just a little bit where her sunburn happened. Or not sunburn, her tan line, that's what I'm trying to say. Probably do that with the patch tool even. Normally I'd take a clone tool and just set it to darken at 10% and just brush over it until I'm happy. This one I think we can actually get by with the patch tool. Good. Open it in Totally Rad. Sugar Rush is a big fan of, or I'm a big fan of it because it kind of makes those colors just really pop. Go here. And what I'm doing, I'm not really talking about what I'm doing in Rad Lab because that's, it's personal preference stuff, and the beauty of this is you can kind of see what it's doing by mousing over. Add some vignette to it. Now I'm going to show you another tool that I use for textures. It is again by Totally Rad. It's called Dirty Pictures, and I don't even know that they. Hopefully they still sell it. I haven't looked, but I don't think they put a lot of effort into it. It's a really simple program. Only reason I like it again is because you can see the textures you're picking, and it dumps a blurred layer on top of it. You could probably. It would be easy to do this on your own. I'll be honest. I like this, and it was cheap. I bought it. So I'm gonna put a little bit of bubble stuff on here. I usually don't change the settings. I change them after the fact, but you can change blending mode and whatnot here if you want. So when it does this, it creates two layers. This layer is basically a completely masked off version of the texture, but with a really high Gaussian blur on it. And then the second layer down here is actually the texture. So I'm going to right away change the texture to hard light because I think this particular texture is going to look better like that. Here we go. And then I'm going to brush that off of her just a little bit here. And now I'm going to lower the opacity of the texture a little bit. One more time in Rad Lab, just to kind of give it a little more punch. There we go. Looks cool. So there you got it. That's my workflow in a nutshell. She's so pretty. I'm not going to retouch anymore, but the next step would be to go basically and put the images back into Lightroom. So you can see where it created some JPEG files. Those are the ones we retouched. So I would copy those files, and then I would put them into Lightroom, into a folder underneath the main directory called Edit. It's just where I keep them. That's not really essential to the workflow. Any way you want to put them back into Lightroom or wherever you're managing them would be fine. Some people use Bridge and folder structure, and that's completely up to you guys. You know, the key to my workflow again is the Autoloader plugin and that Totally Rad plugin. There's lots of other ways to do it. This is the quickest for me. This is the way I've been happy with for years now. So hopefully you took a little something from that. Hopefully it can save you some time. I may make some more videos here where I'm getting a little bit more into the retouching I do. Nothing I do is earth-shattering though, so if you don't know what I'm going to teach you at this point, you probably need to do some basic Photoshop tutorials rather than watch my tutorial. But we'll kind of gauge it. I may realize I've got something that may be of benefit to somebody. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you'll get a little something out of it. If you have any questions in this post, just ask away, and I look forward to sharing some more stuff with you guys here real soon. Thanks a lot.